Have you ever heard the term introvert and wondered what it really meant, or maybe that you've been curious as to whether or not someone else might be an introvert? This may be a hard question to answer. After all, a majority of people tend to play different roles in their personal, social, business, and intimate lives. Who we are when we are around people can change frequently depending on the situation and who is involved. We can be a loud, excitable business person around our coworkers, or quiet and shy around someone who has our affections. Our behavior is fluid and ever-changing, and rarely is someone completely the same around every person they've ever encountered. However, there are a few questions that you can ask yourself when trying to decipher whether you or someone else is an introvert. When thinking about whether or not you or someone you know is an introvert, begin by asking yourself a couple questions. Do you often feel shy or nervous around most people? Do you feel that you would rather stay at home and play a fun video game or read an interesting book than go to a social event or interact with other people? Do you prefer working alone or find that you don't mind if you spend most of your time by yourself? Do you feel that you need to get away from others every now and then and find solitude on your own? If so, you might be an introvert. Even these simple behaviors and thought patterns, if exhibited frequently enough, can be a sign of introversion. You may have even taken the famous Myers-Briggs personality test, which concludes one aspect if a person is introverted or extroverted from their answers. So, what is an introvert? Google defines the term as a person predominantly concerned with their own thoughts and feelings rather than external things. Essentially, an introvert is someone who has more of an inner world and prefers to keep to themselves, rather than being focused externally and on their environment. Another definition I've heard is that introverts get recharged when they start spending time alone, and drained when they spend time around other people, while extroverts are the opposite. It is important to remember that introversion is not the same as narcissism or self-centeredness. The similarities between these two can make them seem so, but introverted people are simply quieter and more comfortable focusing inwards, rather than coming from an egotistical or manipulative standpoint. Introverts are typically people who like to work alone, be by themselves often, be in quiet or peaceful situations, typically prefers to listen to others rather than talking, and are often extremely observational and self-aware. If you're still on the fence about whether or not you or the person in question is an introvert, here's a longer list of traits with an introverted person usually possesses. An introverted person is usually extremely self-aware, observational, likes to be alone or spend time in solitude, prefers the quiet, also prefers to be in small groups. They are highly thoughtful, they might avoid social interaction when possible, they also generally keep emotions to themselves, they're known by their friends as extremely private or reserved people, they tend to be listeners more than talkers, and they focus on intellect and details. While this list encompasses traits that are not necessarily positive nor negative, one of the biggest challenges that an introvert can face is having social encounters in a day-to-day life. As mentioned previously, introverts are often not interested in having an outgoing nature, or might not even be sure where to begin cultivating one. The thought of not being comfortable enough to open up and lighten up around other people may seem disconcerting. After all, people surround us in many aspects of our lives, from work to business to school, education, and even in personal relationships such as friends, families, and intimate partners. The idea or actual feeling of shying away from people can seem unenjoyable, uncomfortable, and even unprofitable, and this is the case for many introverts. They may ask themselves how they can become more of a people person, or even just possess better social skills. Now, this is not necessarily the case with every single introvert, but there will often be times where they will wish that one was more social, whether it be an important public situation, around someone that they like, or even just because they temporarily desire to break away from their shell, to connect with other people, to increase their net worth by networking. If you find yourself relating to this feeling, here are a few tips on how to ignite your social skills, provided by lifehack.org. Number 1, just do it. You can watch a video on my channel about the Ford method, and it includes the 1-2-3 method, which is a great method to ignite your social skills. Tip number 2 is to relax, get comfortable. If you have to, meet people in places that you're comfortable around, like your own house, a restaurant that you often visit. Tip number 3 is to set simple goals about meeting new people. Just like any other goal in your life, if you write it down and it's a simple, smart goal, you'll have a better chance of achieving it. Tip number 4 is to get help from your already outgoing friends. Just like in success psychology, being around people that are better than you, that are where you want to be, is going to boost your confidence, is going to boost your likelihood of being where they are at. Tip number 5 is to embrace the nerves. Tip number 6 is to make it about other people, not yourself. This takes the spotlight off of you and is actually one of the best tips I got out of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the last tip is to drop the introvert label altogether. The last tip is especially helpful when trying to break away from any habit or behavior. Labeling ourselves as something specifically can often allow us to comfortably fall into the habitual patterns and behaviors associated with that label. When we think we have found a word or description to identify ourselves, we tend to subconsciously become this label unintentionally. You know, your brother who is really good at sports. Your sister who isn't the smartest, but is a social butterfly. It is important to try and never label yourself in a negative connotation, as it can lead to you being stagnant and stuck when it comes to your own personal growth. Despite the previous ideas to help you become more social and comfortable interacting with others, it is perfectly fine if you are happier being by yourself. There are two sides to this coin. On one hand, it is scientifically proven that cultivating and maintaining social health can have positive effects on physical and your mental health, whereas Nikola Tesla presented his opposing argument in the form of a quote. He said, "Antisocial behavior is a trait of intelligence in a world full of conformists." No matter what your opinion is, this much is true. Introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts all have just as much chance as life, love, and success. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world are considered introverted, such as Bill Gates, Albert Einstein, Rosa Parks, Mahatma Gandhi, J.K. Rowling, Mark Zuckerberg, Martin Luther King Jr., Charles Darwin, and even Abraham Lincoln. Despite their introversion and preferences for being alone, these individuals have shaped and changed much of society. Without their contributions and their ability to speak up for what they believed in, many of their innovations and insightful thinking would have gone unnoticed. It is important to remember that what you say matters, as well as a fact that you have your dreams and ideas, and they have to be a building block towards a better world. Overall, introversion, as well as anything else, can be a positive thing if shaped in the right way. Although I believe a healthy mix of introversion and extroversion, dubbed ambiversion, is best suitable for entrepreneurs, leaders, and creators. Typically, introverts are very different than how the media portrays them. They are typically not the dramatically nervous, nail-biting, overthinking individual that they can be written or shown as. And many introverts can actually possess refined conversational skills or general talents due to their highly thoughtful and insightful ways. While neither introverts nor extroverts are better than the other, introverts can take comfort in knowing that their silent intellect and often innovative minds are highly appreciative by individuals who are given the opportunity to listen to their insight. Introverts then can be considered lighthouses, shaping the way for a more thoughtful reality. If you're still questioning whether you are an introvert, it is suggested that you complete a quiz on introversion or extroversion, or possibly read more into the characteristics of each personality type. If you're curious enough, you can also take a test called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or simply the MBTI test, which will tell you all of your preferences over introversion, extroversion, intuition, sensing, thinking, feeling, as well as judgment and perception. These tools, if used correctly, can provide greater insight to who you are and how you prefer to be, which can ultimately lead you to a more fulfilled existence, as well as a greater sense of personal identity. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned something, and got something useful out of it. If you want more videos like this, subscribe. Thanks for watching.